A tragic end to a holiday on Lake Macquarie. 81-year-old Dennis Ramsden was found this afternoon. It was a heartbreaking 7-hour wait for his friends.
A lovely couple, very loving, and it's just can't believe, just very sad.
Mr Ramsden and his wife Sandra from the Sunshine Coast had been at Wangi Workers Club. Their night out continued on a friend's boat until 2 a.m. When they decided to head back to their own yacht, tragedy struck. Their dinghy overturned.
They tried to board the yacht, being unable to do that. They tried to swim to shore.
But only one made it. Mrs Ramsden clung to the dinghy for 3 hours, kicking her way back to land to raise the alarm. As she was taken to John Hunter Hospital with mild hypothermia, police took to the air. A quick search of the water also failed to find any trace of Mr Ramsden, who'd been overboard for 3 hours. Police divers were eventually brought in and made the tragic discovery.
I believe he did have heart surgery only a number of months ago. The water's quite cool, but the conditions were good for this time of the year.
Did he have a life jacket on?
No, he didn't.
It's not the first time the dangers of the lake have been underestimated. 15 months ago, Kathy Simon's daughter Courtney died in similar circumstances.
It hits home again how important life jackets are to be worn, no matter the distance from shore.
In this case, that was 100 metres too far.
It's just something you never ever want or hope to happen to anybody, especially, just such a lovely couple. They just don't deserve that to happen.
Nash Wallace, NBN News.
It says the Church does not take responsibility for the conduct of its priests. There is no vicarious liability.
Wests hadn't beaten Maitland in 2 years, but they made a positive start in the preliminary final thanks to Steve Gordon. Rookie sensation Zach Walsh produced a 40-20 to put Wests in range again. A few tackles later, Simon Williams crashed over to double the Rosella's advantage. Wests were making life difficult for the defending premiers, but when Walsh headed to the sideline for treatment, the Pickers wasted no time exploiting his absence. Fullback Marco Della Pena claiming a try. Up 8-6 at the break, the Rosella's Todd Hurrell kept the scoreboard attendant busy early in the second half. Player of the Year Joel Penny then put his stamp on the game. A long run from deep inside his own half ended with a try to Walsh. Wests up 18-6. The Rosellas suffered a scare when the teenage halfback was taken from the field, but his teammates lifted without him. Jermaine Ale then put an injury-riddled season behind him with a 4-pointer of his own, before Penny put the icing on the Rosella's cake with a runaway try to send Wests back to the grand final.
With Newcastle Art School in the firing line, the Deputy Opposition Leader and Shadow Minister for the Hunter came to offer her support. The O'Farrell government took an axe to its education budget last week, with 1,800 jobs to go and fees to rise. TAFE courses in visual arts have been singled out to lose subsidies.
It is going to rip the heart out of TAFE and affect places like the Newcastle Art School, which has been around for 120 years.
Students today vented their anger and voiced fears of uncertainty.
I'm sort of 1 year into a sort of a 3-year course. I don't know what the future holds for me.
The Premier has argued that poor job prospects in visual arts have led to the decision, but teachers say hundreds of graduates have carved out very successful careers.
In the last 20 years I've been working in TAFE. I've seen a lot of students from here employed in industry, working in art galleries, working in museums, winning grants.
Linda Burney also argues that education isn't always about job prospects, labelling Mr O'Farrell's view naive.
It is not all about getting a job at the end of an art course. In fact, many artists don't have full-time employment. But is that a reason to say that an art course is not legitimate? The fabric of our culture, our heritage and who we are as a people is reflected through our art.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
The potential inconvenience and difficulty of an intermodal change could well prove that these commuters choose to travel by car or choose not to travel at all.
It's been public knowledge for over a week, so this afternoon came a rather low-key declaration of the poll for Lord Mayor. Independent Jeff McCloy notched up 36,000 first preference votes, followed by Labor's Nuatali Nelms with 24,000. After the distribution of preferences and the exclusion of 4 candidates, Mr McCloy ended up with 51% and says he's hit the ground running.
I've been making a lot of notes. I've had a few meetings with Phil Pearce, the General Manager. I've been to Sydney at Parliament House to see ministers and the Leader of the Opposition.
He'll move into the Lord Mayor's City Hall office tomorrow, but he still wants to shift into the Roundhouse to be closer to Council's management team. But those unofficially back on Council say Mr McCloy is facing a steep learning curve.
Well, he ran on state government issues, so now he has to look at what council actually does and can do and get on board with those.
And the developers still raising eyebrows by calling for a list of DAs with reasons why they weren't approved.
Well, I guess that sort of comment really does highlight the bias that our new Lord Mayor has, and I hope he would put that to the side and we could sit down as 13 elected representatives in Newcastle to get a common view.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
There are some lessons that never grow old. Music is a classroom classic, but after the tambourines are put away, learning here at First Chance takes on a technological edge. The organisation, which provides early intervention as well as school-age services for children with disabilities, is using iPads and other devices to enhance teaching techniques.
We know that a lot of our kids, their greatest strength is their visual learning, and so this just really taps into that and gives them another way of being able to show us what they're capable of.
Young David has embraced it.
It's a very unifying thing. They all learn, just on the basic side, they learn turn taking and all those sorts of things, waiting for someone else to have a go.
The uses are almost endless, even out in the playground. First Chance has stocked up on iPads and iPods with a $50,000 grant from the Newcastle Permanent Charitable Foundation.
An enormous amount of fundraising otherwise that we would have had to do would have taken us a very long time. So it's just been an amazing gift.
And there's still more to come, a smart board and computers to complete classrooms.
The sky.
It's really good for their self-expression. They come up with their own individual styles to paint with, and just lots of fun.
The announcement rocked the city to the core, and when the gates closed for the final time in 1999, NBN's cameras were there. Reporter Helen Kapelos and cameramen Glenn Cook and Michael Rourke compiled a documentary titled The Last Whistle that captured the steelworks' 84-year history. Aubrey Brooks worked at the steelworks for 38 years, following in the footsteps of his father and grandfather.
Saddest day of my life when that place shut, because, Paul, I'm a people person. I still do tours to the BHP muster point, and people really suffered.
At its peak, during the 50s and 60s, the steelworks employed more than 11,000 workers.
You only had to have a look on a payday when they knocked off work. Was that many push bikes? It was just unreal. There was hardly a motor cars. On the day shift, when the whistle blew at 4 o'clock, the amount of people that streamed down that road to clock off, and everybody knew the quickest way away from the place.
And it's really sad because, we don't even get the apprenticeships that we had in those days. The apprenticeships were 5 years long. Moulders, carpenters, fitters, turners, boilermakers, electricians, moulders, everything was taught at the BHP. We had our own chaplain, our own medical centre. It was a city within a city. They could fix any of your problems in there, personal and all.
By the late 90s, only 2,000 workers remained, and the company paid to retrain them in a bid to find new work in other fields. The former workers still hold annual reunions and are preparing for their latest get-together this weekend.
It's the 13th year reunion, and it's at a new venue this year, Paul. It's at the Newcastle District Tennis Club on Saturday the 22nd of this month, starting at 12:30. I've ordered all the food, wine for the ladies, and some cold drinks for the boys, and we'll kick off from there and hope we get the men and women of steel there.
She went agonisingly close in Athens and missed out in Beijing, but Newcastle's Prue Watt finally turned Paralympic silver into gold in London.
It's a completely different feeling, and it's something that I still haven't really fully come to terms with yet. I think that it might take a little while for it to sink in completely.
The 24-year-old is now happily taking an indefinite break from the pool after 10 years on the national team. Instead, she'll spend her time on the slopes, keen to make a switch to skiing. Watt has a condition which allows her to see about 2 metres ahead with limited peripheral vision.
At the moment, when I ski with a guide who has a Bluetooth headset, and we communicate via that. But when I was young, I used to just ski behind my brothers, and they would ski really fast, so I'd have to ski fast to keep up with them.
If a trial run proves positive, Watt is hoping to compete at the 2014 Winter Paralympics in Russia, and success there could spell the permanent end of her career in the pool. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
A reception fit for a rock star. It's something Maddie Elliott's had to get used to since becoming Australia's youngest ever Paralympic medalist.
Yeah, I'm already used to that because I had one at the pool last week, so they not as big as the one that they had here today because there was a lot more kids here.
Elliott won bronze in the 400 and 100 metres freestyle, silver in the 50, then gold in the 4x100 relay.
Unbelievable. Well above her PBs. She's had 17 races and 16 races and actually has had PBs in every one of them.
She's done so well. She's really young. She's got a gold. She's really amazing and she works so hard for it.
Today, Maddie was the toast of her school.
She's a pretty special person, isn't she? You're proud of her achievements?
Yeah.
She rubbed shoulders with royalty in London, but the Gilliston Heights teen admits being in the spotlight here has come as a shock.
It's a bit overwhelming to get all the attention, but it's pretty good to come home with because it's a big surprise to come home with.
Now it's all about Rio.
Cheers, there's a bit of weight in that, Maddie. You reckon you can get a few more of these in Rio?
Yeah, I reckon I'll get a few more of them in Rio.
Confident?
Yep.
You're always confident, aren't you?
Always confident.
Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News.
She won silver at the London Olympics, but Angie Bainbridge hasn't had time to rest on her laurels. Bainbridge made a bright start to the 200 freestyle at the short course titles in Perth, and her rivals couldn't chase her down.
I was actually a bit surprised, coming back from the Olympics, I only had a few weeks to get ready for this, so definitely happy with the time, yeah.
Good news for the Newcastle Jets, with scans revealing no tear in Ryan Griffith's hamstring. The club says the striker is in no doubt for round one. In Newcastle and Hunter Rugby, Merriweather is appealing to competition officials to review and change a rule that will see Dan Kevill suspended for Saturday's grand final against Hamilton. Kevill picked up his third yellow card for the season on the weekend, a situation which incurs a one-game ban. And in Newcastle Rugby League, West's halfback Zach Walsh has been cleared of a serious head injury following the win over Maitland. Walsh will have scans tomorrow, but is rated a strong chance of playing in Sunday's season decider against Cessnock. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
armed and dangerous.
I heard a bit of an argument going on next door, and next minute I heard which I thought was the screen door slamming a couple of times, but apparently it was a shotgun going off.
The female occupant of the home wasn't injured. Her male partner, not so fortunate.
A man was injured, he was assaulted. There were 2 gunshots discharged from a firearm in that premises. As you'd expect with home invasions, they do steal certain items, and again, we're not prepared to comment exactly what those items were.
Police say the motive for the attack still isn't clear, but they're confident of catching up with those involved.
We're going through the motions now of trying to ascertain exactly what's happened, but again, we certainly prefer any member of the public to come forward and notify police or Crime Stoppers.
The victim sustained leg, stomach and head injuries. He's currently in John Hunter Hospital where he remains in a stable condition. Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News.
A terrifying ordeal like this is the nightmare hanging over the heads of Hunter pub and club workers.
It's on our mind every day when we come to work.
Many either know someone or have themselves been the victim of an armed robbery while at work.
I have once before in Sydney and don't intend to go through that again, but it's pretty scary stuff.
Not while I've been there, but in the past. But, just have to see what's happening, and coming on to Christmas, we need to be extremely careful.
Today, pub and club operators met with police to discuss how they can slip under the radar of robbers.
Including safe money handling practices, lockout, security around the premises, all things that lessen the likelihood of being subjected to a robbery offence.
Security was at the centre of talks today. However, police are still focused on combating drunken violence. 2 months ago, 5 venues launched a linked ID database, facilitating the banning of problem patrons. While the full impact is yet to be assessed, police are cautiously optimistic, but haven't taken a push for further trading restrictions off the agenda.
Police are supportive of the initiative, and we hope to see that sustained reduction in the number of alcohol-related assaults right across the city.
Kath Landers, NBN News.
This was Alison Davey a day after the election. Refusing again to answer questions about an expensive court battle that only she had the power to start. We decided to air these comments on behalf of everyone in Cessnock who's been left in the dark as they foot the bill.
I think it upsets everyone, really.
The story goes like this. 10 of 12 councillors call for the GM sacking. Former Mayor Alison Davey stops it, allows the GM to seek a court order to put off the vote. The GM, Lee Rosser, complains to ICAC that 10 councillors are corrupt, which they all deny.
The Division of Local Government have looked at it and decided there was nothing there. The Ombudsman has looked at it. There's no indication that he's going to investigate.
A council taking a majority of its councillors to court is unprecedented in New South Wales.
And even now, when the former mayor has been resoundingly voted off council, not only does the court injunction continue, but with every second the cost mounts. Cessnock Council won't confirm the size of the legal bill, and now it's claimed to have taken fresh action against 4 councillors.
So I have a restraining order placed on me in the last week.
The Liberal Party and the ALP now working together on a council meeting coup on October 3.
Does the General Manager of this council have a long-term future?
No, definitely not.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
What was once considered trash has again become a treasure.
This is a replica of a very late model Spitfire that would have come into service towards the end of World War II. It's what's referred to as a Mark 16 Spitfire.
And these devotees generously donated their time to make sure it accurately resembles an original.
This aircraft arrived at Fighter World about 4 or 5 years ago in a dilapidated state, and it was touch and go as to whether we burnt it or fixed it, and we decided to have a go at repairing it, and the guys got stuck into it, and over the last 3 years they've brought it to the state you see behind us here.
John Hannon rebuilt the cockpit from scratch, relying only on photographs from old World War II planes. John, so just take me through what exactly you've done to the cockpit here.
Okay, well originally there was nothing in it. It was just a bare cockpit. The first thing I made was the gun sight. Those 6 instruments you can see in the centre, the flight instruments, are original, proper instruments from this era of World War II. Nearly all of the others are been adapted from gauges out of old cars or clocks.
Just what restoration project Fighter World will undertake next is yet to be locked in. But Raymond Terrace's Saberjet is firmly in its sights.
We've told Raymond Terrace Council that we're willing to take that aircraft and restore it to display condition, and the council's yet to make an announcement in relation to that.
Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News.
Defender Scott Neville did his chances of featuring in the Jets season opener no harm with this bullet against Western Sydney.
Always willing to try it, but I don't think it really comes off much. So it's probably one in a million. But yeah, I try it at training all the time and it doesn't really come off. So it was good to get it in the game, but hopefully I can do it in the season. It's a bit more important.
He's new to the club, and it's always nice to score your first goal and settle yourself in. So yeah, look, he'll be over the moon, but I won't be putting too much money on it happening again.
Like many in the Newcastle squad, Neville isn't sure whether he'll make the starting 11. He'd prefer to play at right back, but says the competition for spots is good for the team.
2 players for each position and everyone fighting each week to see who starts, not a guaranteed 11.
Defender Josh Mitchell missed today's training session after having a cortisone injection in his knee, but is expected to be fit for round 1. Meanwhile, the W-League draw has been released, with Newcastle set to open its season against Sydney at Leichhardt Oval on October 21. The Jets' first home game will be at Wanderers Oval against Canberra. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. Back home in Newcastle, Kurt Fearnley has enjoyed a rare break from a hectic schedule as he plans his campaign for a 5th New York Marathon crown. Showing off his medals from London, Fearnley says he's not disappointed with his efforts, he's just not as excited as he would be with gold.
Your reaction is so different to my silver and bronze to what it was when it was gold 4 years ago, you know? Like, that reaction telling me that I've got to be happy is so different to, wow, you know, you won a gold medal.
Having lost his Paralympic marathon crown to David Weir, the 31-year-old says there's no question he wants to go to Rio.
I do want to run for another 4 years, and I do want to try and be as fit and as strong, and I still want to be as healthy as what I am now into Rio and have one more dig at it.
Weir's 4 gold medals at the age of 33 have even provided inspiration for the Aussie, who'll turn 35 before he heads to Brazil.
I don't think that age is a particular hindrance for the moment. I think that as long as you can keep in the sport and keep healthy and keep building on the years previous, then I'm going to have a fair shake in Rio.
For now, the focus is on the Big Apple and winning an historic 5th title there.
It is nice to have, you know, not just finish at the Paralympics and the year be done. You kind of get one more crack and then get a holiday. So
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Chaotic scenes on the Pacific Highway. A man in his 20s was travelling north just before 5 a.m. when he lost control of his car.
For reasons we don't know, the white sedan has left the highway and rolled several times.
The vehicle careered down an embankment, but incredibly, the driver managed to escape the wreck.
Appears he had a dog with him at the time, which has also left the vehicle.
Police believe the man then chased his dog across the busy highway. He was hit by a passing van and died instantly.
Shortly after that collision, a further collision occurred where another vehicle collided with a truck that had stopped to assist.
A 42-year-old woman driving south crashed into the rear of the semi-trailer. The rig's driver had stopped to help the man find his dog. The woman suffered chest injuries and was taken to John Hunter Hospital, where she remains in a stable condition. The dog, meanwhile, was put down early this afternoon. Stephanie Jeans, NBN News.
There was more than just a seasonal change in the air as the Spring Carnival began in Newcastle today. Racing New South Wales is giving the Newcastle Jockey Club $11 million to resurface its track.
When we're all said and done, we'll have a brand new racetrack inside of the current racetrack. What that will enable us to do is then do a full reconstruction on the course proper.
Last year, the condition of the track deteriorated so much it was deemed a hazard.
Safety was the main thing with us. We got to a stage there last year when they had the problem with when they had to close down to do the renovations.
We've had to reschedule a few barrier trials up towards Cessnock.
But it's not just the track in line for an overhaul. Under the deal, the NJC will have to adopt a new governance model, which includes the appointment of independent directors.
There'll be 4 elected by the members, and there'll be 3 appointed. So that reduces us to 7.
Well, I think it's a good move because there's a lot of money being at stake now, and I think they need some people there to make sure the money is spent in the right places. And with the 3 people appointed by Racing New South Wales, that'll enable them to do that.
The club hopes to start the work mid-next year.
I think there's some trainers that won't bring their horses here because they're worried about the condition of the track. Do those big trainers start bringing their horses back? You have big fields, again, better quality fields, produces more money and more interest.
Kath Landers, NBN News.
With just 2 days until showtime, the foreshore is slowly being transformed to host some of the world's biggest music acts.
So we've basically been on site since Monday night, so we'll get, we've obviously got a pretty tight schedule to work to, but we'll be pretty much show ready the night before. We'll just be doing tests and so on.
Fat as Butter organisers say this year's lineup boasts the most international artists in the festival's history. It includes headline act Good Charlotte.
You know, the brand of the festival is really reaching internationally now. You know, it's really sort of, I think that idyllic surroundings and, you know, getting out of the capital cities is also, you know, part of that as well. It's almost like a, you know, destination experience festival.
Meanwhile, another big-name artist is heading the Hunter's way. Cold Chisel guitarist Ian Moss has joined the 10th anniversary tour of Long Way to the Top and will be performing a special tribute to the late Billy Thorpe.
What a great singer he was and a great ambassador for Australian music, and probably one of the the pioneers of the heavy rock in Australia. For me, it's all about sort of getting inside Billy's songs and his lyrics and delivering them in my style.
The tour hits the Newcastle Entertainment Centre on October 8. Emma Murphy, NBN News. Tomorrow night on NBN News, health professionals by day, roller derby dames by night. We take a look at an unlikely band of nurses, midwives and medicos with nerves of steel skating up a storm. That's tomorrow night.
A kick of a different kind. But Tiffany Bosch's, Tori Huster and Angela Salem are already high flyers. Emily Van Egmont's stint with the New York Flash earlier this year has certainly paid off for the Jets.
She actually hooked Angela and I up with our coach's email, Sully.
The Midwest girls' experience in America's competitive WPS is sure to prove invaluable to Newcastle coach Wayne O'Sullivan.
I think Sully started off very strong on last Monday, and he just kind of said, we're coming here to win.
I think we were brought in to lift the intensity, have a winning record, and maybe get in the grand final will be just an even better experience.
Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News. Okay, it's been a few tough grand final campaigns for Cessnock. I suppose there's a few mental scars.
There is, mate. Just it's a personal thing for me, mainly not for the players, but they're all forgiven, all forgot, so we're ready to go this week.
Dr Neil Halpin's been right thorough and sending for scans, which fortunately come back as clear, and I now just have to go through the procedure of seeking a clearance for him on Friday.
The first we hear about it is about 11 o'clock on Monday morning. We're not consulted in any way.
Coming to the corner, I knew I had a lap full of horse. It was just a matter about biding me time and releasing the race and letting it do the rest.
I'm going to watch a lot of teachers that have helped me get through to this point leave, and the quality of education that I've received in 2 years is going to just fall to pieces.
There's students who are halfway through a diploma course, a 2-year diploma course. They're being told they won't be allowed to finish that course without having to pay full commercial course fees next year.
Orica's had its fair share of chemical leaks over the past 13 months. Today it was trying to hose down fears of another.
And I would hope that something like this today would go a long way to regaining that confidence where it doesn't exist.
The mock emergency was designed to iron out any kinks in the system.
You can see behind us is an ammonia pipe. A truck has actually driven into that pipe and burst the pipe. The driver was trapped in the vehicle, and was also some people who were working nearby.
This is the first major interagency emergency drill since last year's infamous hexavalent chromium leak. And while the company's trying to win back community confidence through public displays like this, it's doing little to quell locals' concerns. The community's current worry, Orica's proximity to Incitec Pivot's proposed ammonium nitrate plant.
They've way underestimated the explosive risk of having two adjacent plants which are hoping to store something like 21,000 tonnes of ammonium nitrate.
At a low-key information session in Stockton today, Incitec Pivot made assurances its proposal poses less risks than drinking or getting behind the wheel.
The risk is very low.
Would you feel confident living in Stockton if it was up and running?
Yes, no problem at all.
So, according to our explosive expert that we heard last night, the implications for Newcastle would be catastrophic.
Would it be wiped off the map?
According to him, yes.
Kath Landers, NBN News.
And if you get to the game late and run up the ramp to your seat in the Andrew Johns stand, people have disregard for the rules of where you can and can't smoke anyway, and it's like running the smoke gauntlet. So I think this is great.
When you look at it, it's actually $7,000 towards their deposit, so that affects their borrowing capacity quite significantly. Because of the amount of extra sales that we're seeing in the lower end of the market, you are finding that now that's having a shift. Those people have sold homes and now they're buying in the brackets above.
Built in the 1870s for wealthy pastoralist Duncan Forbes Mackay, Minimba House is still something to behold. The magnificent mansion holds a commanding position over Whittingham, a familiar sight from the highway near Singleton.
A legend has it the Dengers who owned Baroona had a party back in the mid-1850s. The Mackays weren't invited and thought they were invited, and the house was built to impress them, basically.
And impress the Mackays certainly did. The actual home covers almost half a hectare and still makes many green with envy.
It's a 45-room property, original timber features throughout, as well as marble baths and marble fireplaces.
And its staircase is one of a kind, carved from Australian red cedar and rosewood. The grand old mansion with stunning rural vistas cost the Mackays £60,000 to build, which is about $30 million in today's money. Minimba was last sold for more than $3 million in 2007 by Bliss Ryan, who'd poured her blood, sweat and tears into its restoration.
We opened the windows, opened every door, every window, took down the curtain and said, "House you're about to live," and it has.
The next owner then planned to turn it into a retirement home for wealthy women. That fell through, and sadly since then it's been largely neglected. It's now hoped someone else will fall in love with the grand old dame and return her to her glory days. Minimba will go under the hammer on Saturday week. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
By day, these ladies are friendly health professionals, but take a closer look. Overnight, they become...
Massive Package.
Val Freya.
Luna Shovgood.
Baroness Von Brutal.
Billy T. Mames.
Together, they're out to smash their way to victory in the Newcastle Roller Derby League. Karen Tippett, or Billy T. Mames, is a pain management nurse at John Hunter Hospital.
So we see a lot of trauma, a lot of chronic pain patients, and it's just dealing with a lot of injuries, surgery.
So it's surprising she thrives on the danger of slamming her way through the pack.
Sometimes I feel like I need to have someone deal with my own pain after a heavy training session.
While during her time in the skates as Luna Shovgood, Phoebe Wilk has sustained her fair share of injuries. Luckily, she has expert help in strapping up. Phoebe works as a secretary in the intensive care unit, but despite the horror stories, she continues to put her body on the line.
I kind of don't think about it. I try to, when I leave work, I try and forget about work, and roller derby kind of gives me an outlet.
But there are skills behind the thrills and spills. Fast-paced and unpredictable, you need to be fairly fit, and skaters like neurophysiology technician Stacey Sullivan are put through their paces in regular training sessions.
It's been pretty tough, but the girls are all really encouraging. We do work hard, but it's a tough sport, so you got to train hard.
It looks dangerous, and that's because it is. But with all the safety gear and a lot of practice, you're pretty safe.
They teach us how to play safely, how to fall safely, how to hit safely, so if we pay attention to things properly, we really do minimise the impact of the pain to each other and to ourselves.
And the women say roller derby has helped them form friendships, with many united by their battle scars.
I think I talk about derby a lot. Luckily, they're very encouraging. They like to see my new bruises every week.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Right now, he's Cessnock's Superman, but it hasn't always been that way. Sam Wooden was once kryptonite for the Goannas.
In no way, I actually played with West when we beat Cessnock, so it's the other way around this time. But new feeling this year, a couple of new boys, there's new culture in the club.
Now, ahead of his final real NRL game, the fullback is confident Cessnock can break its hoodoo.
It's especially a special time for Cessnock this year round. The side's looking good, and hopefully, we can get the win.
After only narrowly beating the Rosellas in the major semi, Cessnock has plenty of respect for its much-fancied rival.
Terence is the best player in the competition, and he threatens. He scored 2 tries against us a fortnight ago, and you just can't relax. And they get good go forward, good roll with him, and then you just know he's coming.
But the Rosellas aren't exactly flying under the radar, thumping defending premiers Maitland last weekend.
It's no secret. It's their back lines. It's razor sharp. They're quick. Their fullback's a threat, as I've said. Their nine's very good. They've got a working pack. There's this, they're 9 and 1 to me. Their biggest threats. The 2 centres are very strong. They've got 2 good young halves.
The Goannas went into that 08 decider against Wests as underdogs, but their dynamic forwards have them billed as favourites this time around. The Rosellas aren't buying it.
If you can control the ruck and I think we've got pretty special backs, so if we can control the forwards, we'll go a long way to getting it.
Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News. It was clear from the outset, Gai Waterhouse meant business.
I think it'll take a stack of beating. I don't think they'll beat him.
Got a very fit horse who's still going places, and I'm very confident he'll run well.
Glencaddam Gold would run one of the shortest price fancies in Newcastle Cup history.
All the money's for the favourite, Glencaddam Gold.
But it was a local star looking to spoil the party. Newcastle apprentice Alex Stokes would ride French Gift.
She's a female apprentice. I think if she wins the race, it's the first time a female apprentice has won the race.
A little bit nervous. It's first ride in a big race like this, so I know the horse quite well, so it's given me a little bit more confidence, but yeah, definitely nervous.
But as expected, Waterhouse claimed her 5th Cup win.
The young girl came up and took him on and gave him a run for his money, and then he sort of shook a leg in the straight and he won by, what did he win by, about a length and a half?
About a length and a half.
Yeah, very nice.
Glencairn Gold will now be set for the Group 1 Metropolitan with the Caulfield and Melbourne Cups in mind. Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News.
Tomorrow night on NBN News, a hidden treasure in the Hunter. We get geared up to swing high among the treetops. That's tomorrow night at 6.